So today, from a second nexus, the United Nations removes the reference to sexual and reproductive health from resolution after Trump administration veto threat. So basically, the UN will put forward a resolution to protect victims of sexual violence during war and also during peace talks and anytime there's conflicting nations. One of the things that they wanted in this resolution originally was an agreement by all of the signatories to set up what they called sexual and reproductive health care afterwards, so that these victims could be ensured access to good medical care and be ensured that their needs were being met. However, in one article, Trump's big problem with it ultimately was that the language was too close to being abortion language, is the way the article put it. So it's just this moralistic garbage stance again. The U.S. is now. Oh, go ahead.
Uh, I wanted to jump in because on the channel I have said several times that the one thing that I kind of like about Trump, or that is the not as bad as the other stuff, is that he doesn't often spout overt Christian dogma rhetoric. But I guess he's just going to do that now. Because he was also, I don't know if you're coming to this, but he has now also said at a rally in Wisconsin that doctors and mothers were conspiring together to execute newborns, which is a lie. It's not true. It's a mistruth. That anti-abortion activists have been spreading around. But to have Trump say that, like, he may as well at this point just be a. I can't think of anything worse than that a fundamentalist Christian would say. So
Yeah,
he's just, so I just wanted to point out, I didn't want to derail you too bad, but I wanted to make sure before I forgot to point out that, like, I recant from, I was wrong. I shouldn't have even fucking said those things in the first place, because he is just gonna say the dogma garbage trash.
yeah, and it's pretty sad. And this is just a continuation of that, unfortunately. I do have a related quote here from UN French ambassador, whose name I'm not going to attempt. It is intolerable and incomprehensible that the Security Council is incapable of acknowledging that women and girls who suffered from sexual violence and conflict, and who obviously didn't choose to become pregnant, should have the right to terminate their pregnancy. Um, so France is pretty clear here in just saying, like, yeah, it's really effed up that, like, we're telling not only people who are survivors of armed conflict, i.e., war in their country, that hey, like, you had a shit fucking life because of this war. Oh, somebody raped you? No, I'm sorry, you can't do anything about that. You just have to have the kid. Oh, we're not going to support you either. It's just really messed up, like as if they didn't already have it bad enough. And the other thing that I found disturbing about this, that the articles kind of none of them really talked about, was that even despite our threat, because apparently our threat carries so much weight in the UN that it would derail the whole thing, despite there being 15 votes being counted, two of which were China and Russia, who abstained, by the way. Not only did our vote carry so much weight, but then they just went ahead and passed it anyway after taking out the language. Even though many of the representatives are saying things like, yeah, this is incomprehensible and it's horrible, and how could they do this? They just went ahead and passed it. They just kowtowed and then passed it. It just seemed really kind of fucked up that they would just bow to the U.S. like that. I mean, I guess maybe that's the political climate
We
today is
have
they
all the
have to.
power.
Yeah,
We still have all the power for now. Like, they're, and that's probably part of the reason that in our lifetime the horrendous nature of the stuff that we're willing to do has increased in its fervor. It's gotten worse and worse and worse, more overt, more in the daylight, our weapons dealings, and so on and so forth. Because now we know that there's going to be contenders for that power, and so we're trying to solidify our position for the future. But it's, for now at least, like, we are still so powerful that we can, as a matter of policy, ignore international statute and law while grandstanding and starting offensive wars all over the place based on saying that other people haven't followed those same rules. It's
Yeah,
You're right to say that it's insane. It makes no sense. Why would they
not at all.
pass this with it? Wasn't that language important?
Yeah, I would think so. I found it to be kind of important. I thought that the various, guarantees to health care for, rape and war victims were kind of important, but evidently not, because they went ahead and passed it. I had another quote here.
Mm-hmm.
This was just an unnamed UN delegate, so in the article they didn't actually specifically name the person. He said, "Until the Trump administration, we could always count on the Americans to help us defend it. Now the Americans have switched camps. Now they're an unholy alliance of the US, the Russians, the Holy See, the Saudis, and the Bahrainians, chipping away at the progress that has been made." And the it, by the way, is women's rights.
Yeah.
That's the thing that we're against. And I think that's the other gross thing that comes out in this is that, it's come up throughout the election, throughout his presidency and so on. People have pointed out, oh yeah, Trump is against women, or he has these policies that are, not feminist, or however they phrase it. And others on, his supporters typically will say, oh, but look at all the women on his staff, and look at all these successful women he's hired. And yet, every action that he has the opportunity to take that could support women's rights, he's coming out and saying, no, we're not going to support women. I don't know how you could interpret that any other way. I mean, this law is literally about protecting women and children who are victims of, sex crimes and war.